This is Panda Consulting's ArcGIS workshop, and I'm Frank Conkling. Welcome. It's good to see everybody again. So the we were thinking about topics and what we might be talking about, and we realized that a lot of people are moving out of ArcMap now and into Pro, and they're encountering the fact that by far the best way to go and manage parcels inside of ArcGIS Pro is with the parcel fabric. But I always get this question every time I talk to people about this transition that they're going through. And the question is, why the parcel fabric? Why is everyone recommending the parcel fabric? And Esri does a great job with their talking about this and such. I want to come at this a different way, though, and I want to go and make sure that you understand as a parcel mapper, as a cadastral mapper that works in an office doing parcel mapping and maintenance every single day, why would you think about doing this and such? Before we start, I just want to recommend and please look at the go ahead and click on the QR code down at the lower right corner. It'll take you to our website, tell you who we are, what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. Also give you more information about us. At the end, at the bottom of that landing page, you'll also find a sign-up sheet for our newsletter, in which we send out monthly invites to these workshops together with tips and tricks. So hopefully you'll go and do some more research on this. So let's start. So here's the four main topics that I think about when we get into this. The first thing is the fact that if you're working inside of an office, and we need to be honest and recognize that, in fact, parcels are a mystery. And I don't mean that necessarily that we don't know what we're doing, but rather from a quality standpoint, we're not really sure because of the structures that we've been using, because of the fact that all we've really been focusing on is creating that map. We're not really sure what the quality of that data is. We're not really sure when it was done, where it was done, who did it. So they're a mystery. It's like until somebody says, oh, we don't think that's right, or until they go and overlay it on top of an aerial that they think is a better quality, you really don't get a whole lot of feedback on here. Well, that's what the parcel fabric allows us to start having some questions and start digging in. The next reason why you might consider why the parcel fabric is the fact that because of the way that the parcel fabric is structured and because of what it does, you actually can wind up doing more with less effort. And I'll go and demonstrate that a little bit. And then we're going to look a little bit deeper into the data and what's actually being accumulated. What is the parcel fabric doing for us? And what is it recording? And what is it making sure that everything fits together and such? And we'll look at that a little bit further. And then finally, well, you can also become the fixer, the one who can identify problems and clean them up so that it makes your life easier. It makes everybody's life easier because it increases the quality of the data that's being worked on. All right, so the first thing is parcels are a mystery. And again, here's the problem. We have polygons, and we encounter this all the time as we go and contact our clients across the United States. Who did this? Who created this parcel? When was it created? Why was it created? Why did they change this? And when they changed something, why did they change it? What did they change on there? Well, the parcel fabric actually has an ability to go and do this. And that ability relates to the fact that there is a record and a transaction which is being accumulated when we go and decide to make a change in our data. So the natural data structure looks similar to everything else, but what happens is we create a record, which is we're going to go and find and put together everything that we do as part of this change. Now, this change is not necessarily a fixing or adjustment, but it's to reflect some sort of a document that says there's a reason why data changes. and you want to go and record what that reason is, why it occurred, and what changes have occurred as a result of this. So let's just go and call this just change number one. All right. And again, part of it is what did we what are we changing? What's the date on it? And such. And by the way, you can expand this, and this could be literally a record of a transaction that occurs. And once we go and create a record, we can then see this is active up here. And this is, by the way, called a heads up display. And it allows us to go and say, okay, let's start tracking what's happening. And the important thing is that what's going to be tracked are two things: when we create something and when we delete something or mark something as historic. So very quickly, I can go in here and I can say, let's go and draw a line. Now that line that I draw, it was just freehand. But what's happening is that it's actually going and recording that I actually went and created it, when I created it, and more importantly, it went and populated this attribute field called created by record. Now that number looks a little strange. It turns out that that number is what's called a global unique identifier, or GUID number. It's unique not just in your data set, but it's unique across your system. And the odds are that there aren't any other features out there, at least on your system, that have this same number. So this is a unique system. But more importantly, if I go and look at my records, it turns out that this is the record information that's being created, and this is the global ID of my record. So this is the identifier for the record. And on this, I actually can see it's storing that on everything that I create, every polygon I create, every line I create in here. And it's going to do that every time I create something that has an active record on it. All right. So this is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series of lines on here. And just to show you and help you build upon this so you understand it a little bit more, the relationship, I can go back here to this heads up display and I can say, show me everything that's created as part of this record. And it will tell me that these are the 4 lines that I've created so far that are part of this record, related to this document, related to this transaction. Well, another thing that it will do is it will allow me to go and say, well, let's check this and see whether or not it actually forms a closed polygon. And that's why it created this little blue dot, which is called a seed. And then when I'm done, I can go and build this, and it will go and make sure that I comply with all topology rules on here. And it will go and expand my seed into my lines, and will create points and such, so that when I go back here now and say, when I created this record, show me everything that I created as a part of this record on here. And it will show me that it created 4 points, 4 lines, 4 seeds. And that's good as far as creating new things. But what happens with impacting other things? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just only select this parcel. Because with the parcel fabric, it's another thing. I don't have to go down and very granularly select every line, every point that I'm going to go and impact. I can select the polygon. And because it's a parcel fabric, the software understands that when I select a polygon that's inside the parcel fabric, that's got a record associated with it, I also intend to work with everything that's associated with it, all the lines, all the points. So I don't have to go back and be real careful in what I'm selecting. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and clip out. I'm going to clip out. So this is a split, and it's going to split, and it's going to take this parcel and it's going to cut it out of the one that's underneath. And when I say clip on here, it's then going to go and clip that out. Now let me turn on historic, and I can now see that I actually have a couple of things in here. When I do a selection, I can see that here's the parcel that I created. And by the way, it automatically populated that created by record. And then here is the actual parcel that got retired or that got marked historic on here. And if you look, that same global ID that's on the record is now populated in the retired by record field, meaning here is the transaction that caused a change to occur on this set of data. And also, it will record the date and such that it happened on here as far as the modification date in here. So it was modified here at this time. So it will record it that. And then also whether or not there was a split on a subdivision. I actually clipped it out of my subdivision because I wasn't paying attention on here, but I clipped it out of there. And if I turn on historic, I would see that also. So there were a couple of things that happened. So the first thing is that the parcel fabric is going to help you to go and start keeping track of what changes occurred with my data and why did they occur, when did they occur, and who did it. And I can then start looking and analyzing what happened here. So, for example, I could go over to another parcel, and on that parcel, I can say, well, activate the record on that parcel and then go and show me everything that was associated with that parcel. And it will go and show me the points that were created, the unique points, the lines that were created in here, and the parcel itself. And I can go in here and say, okay, well, that happened on 423 was when the last time I went and edited in 2024. So with the parcel fabric, as we are editing these things, as we're keeping track of these, it's actually building up this whole repository of data about our parcels. When was it touched? Why was it touched? Because I can actually, as part of my record information, I can say, this is a deed that's recorded in a certain OR book and page, or I can say this is a subdivision plat, or for those in Wisconsin or Minnesota, it's a CSM, a certified survey map. It's a minor plat, those sorts of things. So I can make a reference to what was the document that caused that transaction. So it's beginning to allow us to understand and to go and begin to take out some of the mystery of our parcels. Where did it come from? Who did it? When did it occur? Why did it occur? What was the document that caused this thing to happen? So it's beginning to build up on that. Well, what else can it do? It can go and let the software finish the work for you because it allows you to start doing more things with less people, but more importantly, less effort so that you can actually find. We're finding some of our clients have come back to us and said, you know, learning how to use the parcel fabric and fully implementing it, I can now go and maintain my parcels in half the time that I used to do it because I don't have to do all those other little things that ArcMap used to make me do. And even ArcGIS Pro without the parcel fabric would make me do. Things such as I only have to select the parcel. I don't have to go and select the lines. I don't have to select the points. I don't have to do any of that on here. So let's go and talk a little bit more and show some more things about this. So let's say I had another transaction that I wanted to go and record, and let's call this a merge transaction or a combine. This is a combine, and across the country, we call these different types of things. We call them combinations, consolidations, merges, and such. But it basically is when you take two or more parcels and you combine them into one. Um, Often this is caused by some sort of in surveying and legal terms, we'll often call this as a unity of title. It's where you go and take what used to be owned by two people and now replace it with one. So there's only supposed to be one tax bill coming off of it. So I'm going to create the record, say I'm going to go and do a combine now, a combination. Now on here, I'm going to select my two parcels, not the lines, not anything else, just the two parcels that I'm going to go and do the merge on. I'm going to tell it to do the merge. And now the question is, okay, well, What do I want to do with it? In this case, I can tell it, well, maybe I want to merge it into this larger one. And in here, it gives me the option. The merge tool says, okay, do you want to go and clean out all the attribution, or do you want to just use an existing one? If I use a template, it cleans it out. If I don't and just click on one of these, it goes and copies these over and then updates them as it's going. So let's go ahead and hit merge. And now watch what happened. Immediately, it said, okay, let me take those two parcels and let's go in and get them now. Those two parcels, all right, here's my new parcel on here, and it will tell me, by the way, that that this is my new global ID for my record, and it will tell me when in fact I did this, when I created this new parcel and such, and what record it was associated with. But more importantly, it does other things. It will take the old parcels that I had selected and marks them historic. It says, okay, these were marked historic on this time, but now it also does other things in here. So when I select here, I can go and say, okay, well, I also have this line and this line, which are now marked historic. They're no longer active. I no longer need them. So let's turn off the history so we can see that that those lines have now been marked as historic for us. We no longer need to see them. If we did wish to see them, they're not deleted. They basically are just marked as no longer being current, and we can use them for creating our cartographic maps and such if we need to. But you saw very quickly it went and reanalyzed those things. But they did a couple other things for me. In addition to that, I also have, as part of the parcel fabric, the ability to have it go and automatically calculate a whole bunch of things. For example, I went and it automatically recalculated the acreage for me on here. It also went and made changes. I went and input one value. It also went and copied that value into another feature class for me, and it reformatted that into a third feature class. Excuse me, not a feature class, an attribute field. It went and reformatted it, so it automatically did all of that reformatting for me. I also went down and it calculated what census block group I was in. So it automatically calculated that field for me. It also automatically calculated the URL link over to a website so that my CAMA system could automatically be connected up to this new parcel. So this is what I mean by letting the software do the work for you. It automatically, because of recognizing the normal workflows that we do as parcel mappers, it allows us to go and integrate this so that the parcel mapper doesn't need to do these on its own. There's more though, right? So that because of this, the parcel fabric also understands that there's times in which we've got these residual lines left over, and there's a tool called, let's go here, reconstruct boundaries. Now, reconstruct boundaries allows me to go and analyze this and say, analyze the lines that are associated with my parcel right now. And if I've got a straight line, take those two lines, combine them into one, and then add up all of the dimensions for me. So when I click on this and then tell it to go ahead and do this, it then will allow me to go and correct these and define where they are. This, by the way, is there's some issues in here only because this was migrated over and it's not fully set up for this demo. But in fact, it will go and aggregate them together and add them together for me. So again, it helps us to go and update our data as we're going forth. Um, I see a comment in here.
Yes. Do you want me to read it to you?
Sure, please.
I guess you just mark the four lines to make a polygon, then clip, but the program adjusts the subdivision layer, the polygon layer, parcel layer, and calculates the line distances and acreages. Perhaps even changes other layers if set up such as a lot, block, easement, hydrology layers automatically. Right now, when I make a parcel, I have to change the parcel layer, then the block layer, then the lot layer, then the subdivision layer, then, if applicable, the easement layer and hydrogen layer. Then I have
Yes.
to calculate acreage. You got it.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly right. Now, just to let you know, what I actually did is I told it to go and clip through everything that I had. That's why it clipped the subdivision, but that's actually one of the options when you go to do that clip. And let me go and demonstrate it here just by doing another create a record. Let's call this demo two. All right, and we're going to do this with tax parcels, and it's a great observation, by the way. So now I have, just to go and verify, if I do a selection here, all right, I can see that I am right now in I have parcels and I have within this subdivision, this Indian Summer subdivision. Now, so if I go and create a parcel here, all right, it will then allow me to go and clip out, and I can decide what's going to get clipped. So let me show you another way in which the parcel fabric works for you. It allows you to go and build things with less effort. So this time, rather than going and creating lines, I'm just going to draw a polygon. I'm going to draw a parcel polygon. And because I have an active record, it recorded on here again. Let me go and demonstrate this again. It recorded on here a value for my created by record. So it automatically, again, one more time, if I go here, that's my global ID for my record. And here's the global ID of for the polygon that said this is what created that line. Now, if I go in here, let me clear this out. I actually have a tool that says build. Now, what that build actually means is analyze all the features that are associated with my active record. And if I'm missing anything, if I'm missing any of the topology elements that are required, build them. So the topology elements that are required on here are, real quickly, if I go to my properties of my topology and look at the rules, for all of my parcel types, these are the individual types of parcels, the grouping that you have over on the side, I have 6 rules. One says that the lines have to have points on the end. So the first thing it's going to do is check to see whether I have lines and whether they have points on the end. Then it's going to say, well, lines can't have dangles. Lines can't self-overlap. Lines can't self-intersect. Lines have to be on the boundary. Ah, and then here's the final one, and this is a polygon rule, that the boundary has to be covered with lines. So when I do that build, it's going to go through my topology rules and say, what's missing? And it's going to go and build whatever is missing. So in this case, right now, I only have, take everything as part of this record, I only have the polygon. But when I say build this, it actually, that fast, it went and built the lines, it built the polygons, built everything in here. When I go and say, show me everything that's associated with this, it says, oh, you built 4 points, you built 4 lines, and you built 1 polygon. That quickly it went and did the work that I normally would have to do. Again, because it helps us to take care of the structural to make sure that the integrity is there. Marks all of them as being why they were created, when they were created, and such. Let me go a little bit further and say, well, what about the COGO values on there? Because I built this from a polygon. Let me go and say, update the COGO values. And it will go and tell me it's doing just the lines. So it's going to update the COGO values for me. All right. Now, this is interesting because if I look at the labels, this label says, oh, there's nothing around it, but this label actually has brackets around it. Well, what does that mean? The brackets are a result of inside the parcel fabric. It allows us to keep track of not just what the Kogo value is of the lines, but where did it come from? All right. And I have a couple of options here. I'm going to go and mark all of these lines as part of this. And I'm going to mark them a couple different ways. One, I can say that I actually entered that. If I had entered those values, note it would be exactly like that. If I said, no, 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 this was from geometry, which meant it was digitized lines and I couldn't depend upon it, it marks it with brackets. So I can quickly go and see where did it come from. Now, if I gone and split these, it also will say, this has been proportioned plus or minus. So maybe you shouldn't put as much confidence in this as if somebody actually entered it off of the official document. So the parcel fabric, again, goes and allows you to go and identify visually what's the good Kogo values and what's the Kogo values you can kind of depend upon and what are the values you cannot depend upon. So that's all there. Let's go back here to what I originally started. This was let's go and demonstrate that clip again. Now, when I clip on here, the clip actually has multiple ways that we can do this. The quick and dirty way or more precise way. And it depends upon whether or not on the very bottom here in ArcGIS Pro, I say clip all the layers that are editable at the moment. Well, the editable layers are the ones that are turned on in this case. So if I turn off my lots and my subdivision layers, it no longer will clip out from those layers. But because when I did my first one, I had subdivision turned on and I had lots turned on, it clipped everything out. Well, let me go in. As a common practice, I can just turn those off and say just clip it out. The only one that I will have clipped out now is this other parcel on here, and it automatically calculated everything for me. So great observation. Thank you for seeing that. In fact, yes, it does go and do that. All right. So let the software do more for you. Let's go back here. Let me go show you another reason why. I'm going to use a new record, and I'm going to call this record Aliquot, meaning I'm going to go and do something from by using the geometry of that parcel right now. So I'm going to go and select this parcel, and I'm going to take the northerly 500 feet of this parcel and split it. So in order to do that, I select the parcel. I don't have to select lines. I don't have to do anything else in here. I don't have to figure out what lines I'm going to split. I just select the parcel and I say divide this parcel. All right. And now what I'm going to tell it, I'm going to do it into with a distance, and I'm going to say 500 feet. And then I tell it, okay, what edge do I want to go from? In this case, I can go and click here and say, I want to go from that edge. Now here's, again, Parcel Fabric helps. Some of this is Pro, but a lot of this is Parcel Fabric. He's going to show me what this is. And then down here, this is specific to the Parcel Fabric, and that it says, not only do I want you to go and split these parcel, but because I have an active record, it will go and split the parcels, mark the original one, the parent parcel, historic, create the new ones, calculate all that forward, create a new line here, create points on the ends of the lines, and it will split those other lines at the same time. We're done. Boom. All right. And we go in here. We can now see here's the dimensions that are already, it's now marked it. It's recalculated the Kogo values, marked it and said, here's what those prorated values are. This is now exactly 500 feet parallel to, not measured along the edges, but parallel to, which is the correct way of doing it. And it recalculated the acreage for us on here. The only thing we really have to do is go in and modify which of these parcel numbers have changed. So in this case, maybe this is the one that changed. I can go in here and just make that maybe a 5. All right. And note, not only did it make it a 5 here, but it also went, made sure that was there. It also went and recalculated these other attribute fields as it did that. Let the software work for you. Don't feel that you have to go back and do this and then you're never quite sure. Did it do everything that I needed to do on here? It automatically will do that. All right. So let the software finish the work for you. It's set up to help you for parcel mapping. And that's, I want to make a point here. This is not set up for zoning. This is not set up to maintain ESN areas. This is set up for parcel mapping for parcels. That's what it's for. So let's look deeper. What else? Why else should we think about the parcel fabric? Because the question is, and this is what that mystery, this is that one that keeps your property assessor and your property appraiser up at night. Do I have problem parcels out there that I don't even know about? And here's how you do it. You say, okay, how do I find when there's a problem on my data? Right? Well, the parcel fabric actually has some tools to help you to do that. And this is under the quality tab. Right? On here, let me go and start with this, show you this tool right here allows me to go and analyze to see whether I have gaps or overlaps, not using topology engine, not using the topology like we used to do in ArcMap, but this uses spatial statistics against here and says, look at all the layers inside my current extent. And if I have a gap, show it in red. And if I have an overlap, show it in green, but only look for things that are less than 6 feet in width. Right, so it doesn't go and show the actual road as being a gap or overlap between my parcels. I can tell it how far that distance is and what I want to analyze. So now when I click on here, if you'll look, you'll see little dashed lines all around here. That's the area that it went and checked. And in this case, it checked them and it found two things. It found a gap here and an overlap here. All right. So if I go in here and look at this, and I can go and turn these off, clear them out, and I can see, yeah, there is in fact a gap here. All right. So I have to go and fix that. How do I fix it? There's a couple of ways of fixing it. We're going to go and show you one of the tools inside Pro. I wish I could say that this was just the parcel fabric, but it's not. There's a tool here which says, okay, take and analyze all the lines and everything within this buffer that I just created, this tolerance area, and automatically go and snap them together. Now let's go back here and do a highlight, and sure enough, that's been fixed. It's no longer a gap, no longer an overlap on there. Let's go back here again and look out here. Oh, here's that one that was problematic before. So let me go back and use this same tool called Align Features. And I'm going to draw a line here, here, and I'm going to say, go ahead and fix this. And then I'm going to go and highlight it and fix it for you. Again, a lot simpler than using the topology engine and going and validating topology, which, by the way, actually degrades the quality of the work that you're doing because it's constantly cracking and intersecting and inputting vertices in there, and then it's clustering together and moving them together. So over a long period of time, the more often you use that, the more you're going to find those issues there. This does not do this. All this does is highlight and say, oh, let's look and see, do you have any issues here? Yes, I do have issues, so I'm going to have to go and fix these. So let's go ahead and in this case, let's go ahead and fix these and make sure that all of this is coincident with one another on here. And then let's check it again. And sure enough, the gaps have been removed here. We had another one down here somewhere I saw. And you can see so much easier to go and do it this way, to find those things that are hidden for you that you wouldn't see any other way on here. Let me go and show you a different tool, and this one might also help. So in this case, I think I probably have 2 points. Yeah, look at that. I have 2 points in here. All right, I have 2 points, and they're not on top of one another, which is what they should be. So here's the second tool that you can use to fix this. Is there is a tool called a merge points tool. And this is again only in the parcel fabric. And now I'm going to tell it, and it's going to say, it's going to select my 2 points and give me an option. How do you want to fix this? In this case, I want to move everything to point number 1, or I can tell it move everything to point number 2. In this case, I'm going to say just move everything to point number 1. And let's go back out to where we were. And let's see if that fixed it. I doubt it would, but let's see if it fixed it for highlights and gaps. No, it did not, because we still have other issues here. We have the same thing here. Let's do this, and let's move them all to that. Let's go back here. Go ahead, Chris. We have a question.
Yes. Mark asks, can we use the highlight tool on non-parcel fabric layers?
No, no, no. It's a great tool. I really hope that Esri goes and integrates that into sort of their standard ArcGIS Pro functions and tools. But at the moment, no. This is one of the benefits of moving into the parcel fabric, and you'll see that. I mean, right now there's a lot of really advanced tools being developed for the parcel fabric, and we might see over time that there's enough demand that they may go and decide to integrate that into other non-parcel fabric. But at the moment, it's one of the values to moving into the parcel fabric. You get you get the ability to go and find these and correct them very easily. Same way with merge points. You have to have points on the end. They have to be part of a record in order for you to be able to go and use manage points, because it has to know that all these things are connected to one another, which is part of the parcel fabric structure on them. All right, but good point. Good question. Like I said, hopefully in sometime in the future, they may become available to everybody else, but at the moment it is Parcel Fabric exclusive. Another one of the reasons why the Parcel Fabric. Why do you want to consider moving into the Parcel Fabric on here? All right. So that's another one of the things. So let's go ahead and say, well, okay, so how do you find a parcel? How do you find a problem? One of the problems was the gaps and overlaps. That's sort of the problem we used to think a lot about it in ArcMap. Because the tools were very primitive on how we go and create things and make sure they're contiguous to one another, we would have that. But there's other tools in here, right? How do you identify and correct these other tools to become fixers? These are the people that go around and clean things up for others. So let's look at another one of the quality tools that are built into the parcel fabric, and only these are exclusive to the parcel fabric. So if we go over here, there's a thing called parcel layers. So now what I could say is that, all right, I understand that on a geometry standpoint, these things fit together, but tell me about the attribution on these. Do I have a COGO value stored that doesn't match the actual distance that it's actually mapped at? So let's go and say, let's look for a distance mismatch on our parcels. And it's going to go and real quickly go and put up a new display layer. It's gone and analyzed all the lines that are part of our parcel layer and said, okay, here's the areas where you're going to have problems. And if I go and open this up and see the attribute table on here. This, by the way, is nothing more than a display layer, and it's just going to display those lines that have got problems with them. And I got about 1,500 lines in here. So let's go and zoom over to one of them. All right. In this case, it says this line, the COGO value says it's 623.57 feet, but you've got a mismatch because if we actually go and select that line on here and look at it, we can see here that in fact the actual distance on here in your shape length is 636.1 feet. So it's different. It's 12 foot different, 12.56 feet difference. Now, it may be that that's not a big problem on us, but, and again, this is not forcing you to fix it. This is helping you analyze and say, is this a problem? That is this parcel mismatched? And allows us to go in there and say, let's identify this. Let's take the mystery out of this data that we're going and sharing with everybody else and saying these are accurate. Hopefully, we're saying these are accurate. Hopefully, they are accurate, but it allows us a way to go and analyze these lines, this data that's on our parcel data that everyone else is relying upon, and to know to take the mystery out of our parcels and find us. All right. And you can see here, I've got another one here, and it says, okay, we've got a mismatch here of 9.21 feet. If I go down here, I've got some others in here. Shows me other mismatches in here, 16.37 feet. Now, it may be that this is not a problem, but, and it, again, software does not make you fix it. It just says, this is where you've got issues in this parcel. These are things that you might want to look at. So the other types of displays I can do, I can say, well, show me where I've got vertices on my lines that sort of broke the lines up on here. And let's go and go to one of these and see what we've got here. And in here, it will go and tell me that there's a vertex on this line that may or may not be needed. I also have the ability, using quality, to go and say, well, show me where I've got a really short line, a line that I can define, again, as being a certain distance. And I've got a lot of riparian areas here. So here, I've got a line that's defined as being 0.31 feet. And the question is that really a legitimate line? One here, it's a line that's 3/100ths of a foot. The odds are that was not probably not on the deed. That probably is a mapping error, and I could go and fix that if that's the case. How do I fix it? Again, with the tools that I have as a fixer. It's not bleach, but it's how do I fix this now and how do I clean this up? I can tell it which of these I want it to go and do that, and it will go and clear that out for me. All right, so it's no longer an error in here, no longer shows up in here at all. So why the parcel fabric? Why the parcel fabric? Parcel fabric allows us to change from being purely cartographers, from allowing us to use our cartographic license to fudge things. I'll admit I've been as guilty as this of this as anybody in my 40 plus years of mapping. Yeah, you could get away with it because there was no way to go and check. Well, now with the parcel fabric, it allows you to start analyzing, start discovering the things that sooner or later is going to come to the surface. So you might as well understand it, fix them while you can, and just move forward from that. All right. So allow you to identify the problems, allow you to go and fix them quickly. So then the question is, are there any other questions? Does anyone have any questions or comments in here and that we can answer before we close out the workshop? Otherwise, stick around. We'll go and we'll talk more off the record. All right. All right. So then hopefully you enjoyed the workshop. Please give us any comments or suggestions on how we can make it more meaningful, what other topics you want to go and see, and we'll be more than happy to help you with that. Again, thank you again for joining us and see you next time.